Here's something that'll stop you cold. A wild elephant slowly walks up to a pile of bones. Old bones, weathered ones, scattered on the ground, maybe years old. And this elephant reaches out its trunk and starts gently touching them. The skull, the jaw, the tusks, just feeling them carefully, quietly. Then other elephants in the group walk over, and they do the exact same thing. Now here's what makes this genuinely wild. They don't do this with rocks. They don't do it with fallen trees. They don't even do it with the bones of other animals. Only elephant bones. Nobody trained them to do this. Nobody rewarded it. And it shows up in elephant populations that have literally never seen another elephant do it before. This behavior has been documented so consistently across different continents, different researchers, different decades, that scientists now consider it one of the most solid examples of what they call death-related behavior in non-human animals. But here's the real question. What does it mean? Are they grieving? Do they actually understand what those bones represent? Do animals have any concept of death at all? That's what we're getting into today. And I promise you, the science here is way more fascinating and way more contested than you'd expect. Let's start with the actual question, because it's trickier than it sounds. Do animals know when someone dies? Seems simple, right? But the word know is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. In cognitive science, knowing something means you have a mental representation of it, a concept that works across different situations. Think about it this way. If your dog whines at the door where your recently deceased family member used to walk through, is that grief? Or is it just the dog noticing that an expected sound, a familiar smell, a daily routine is suddenly gone? Those look identical from the outside, but they're completely different things happening inside. Here's what researchers say the full human concept of death actually requires. 1. Understanding that a living thing has become permanently non-living. 2. Grasping that it's irreversible. They're not coming back. 3. Recognizing that individual as a specific being whose absence is different from just being away temporarily. And 4. Understanding that death is universal, that it happens to everyone, including yourself. Developmental psychology tells us human kids don't fully lock in that complete concept until around age 7 or 8. So the question is, do animals ever get there? Here's the honest answer. We don't know. Not fully. But what we do know, and this is where it gets incredible, is that animals show responses to death that are way more complex and way more specific than anyone expected. Let's go back to elephants, because the elephant data is the most compelling we have. When an elephant in a group is dying, other elephants will stay close, touching them, vocalizing. When death happens, they'll stand near the body for a long time, and their behavior shifts. It's gentler, more exploratory, different from how they interact with living group members. And then there's the bone touching we talked about at the start. That's the part that really gets researchers going, because those aren't elephants responding to someone they knew. These are complete strangers' bones, elephants they never met, and yet they respond to those bones in a way they don't respond to anything else in their environment. That tells you something huge. It means elephants have some kind of category for elephant that carries significance even after death. They're not responding to an individual. They're responding to a type of being. But the individual cases, those are even harder to explain away. Elephant mothers who lose a calf have been documented trying to carry the dead calf, lifting it, supporting it, keeping it from sinking if it died in water, for days. That's exhausting. That costs energy. It makes zero practical sense if the calf is already gone. The only explanation that really fits? Something that looks a whole lot like not being ready to let go. Dolphins and whales tell a similar story. Bottlenose dolphin mothers have been documented carrying dead calves at the water's surface, sometimes for weeks, trying to nurse them, staying close. And this isn't one isolated incident. It's been recorded in at least 15 cetacean species. The most famous case? 2018. An orca named Tahlequah. Her calf died, and she carried it for 17 days and over 1,000 miles in the Pacific Northwest. 1,000 miles. The story went global, and even journalists who are usually careful about this stuff couldn't help using the word grief. Entire orca pods change after a group member dies. Different travel patterns, more vocalizing. spending time in places connected to the one they lost. These are animals with lifespans over 60 years and deep, lifelong family bonds. The loss clearly registers. Now let's talk about dogs for a second, because this one hits closer to home for most of us. Dogs who lose a human companion show a pretty consistent pattern. Less appetite, more searching around the house, whining, periods of just being low. And these changes aren't just disrupted routine. They're specific to the person who's gone. Not a general stress response, a targeted one. There's a famous 19th century case, a Skye Terrier named Greyfriars Bobby in Edinburgh, who reportedly stayed at his owner's grave for 14 years after the man died. Modern research backs up the pattern. Studies of grieving pet owners consistently show their surviving dogs change, and those changes mirror what grief looks like in observable terms. They start around the time of death. They ease up over weeks and months. Cats do it too, just more quietly. Withdrawal, less social, haunting the spots where the person used to be. It's subtler, but it's there. Now, primates. This is where things get philosophically heavy. Chimpanzee mothers have been documented carrying dead infants for weeks, even as the body begins to decompose. The group around them gets quieter. Social activity drops. Other chimps will inspect the body, touch it, groom it. In 2009, researchers in Zambia documented a female chimp named Noelle. Her infant, Thomas, died at about 2.5 years old. Noelle carried Thomas for 27 days. She let other females come inspect him, and the whole group, behaviorally, just looked like they were registering a hole where Thomas used to be. Social interactions that would have involved him simply didn't happen. Gorillas show it too. And here's what makes the primate data especially interesting. It's not just about mothers and babies. Long-term studies show that adult elephants and adult primates show grief-like responses when their close friends die. Not just their kids, their social partners. Female baboons who lose a close companion show elevated stress hormones, measurable cortisol spikes, for weeks after the death. They also start building new social bonds faster, like they're instinctively trying to fill the gap. That cortisol data is huge, by the way. It means these animals aren't just behaving differently, their bodies are responding to loss, the same way a stressed, grieving human body does. And then, crows. Yeah, crows. Researchers at the University of Washington documented what they literally call crow funerals. When a crow dies, other crows gather around the body, land near it, vocalize differently than normal, and mob the area in big numbers. They tested this in controlled conditions using taxidermied crow bodies. Same result every time. And here's the wild bonus finding. Crows who witnessed the death were subsequently more wary of the humans who were present at the scene. They associated those people with the death event and remembered it. These birds' brains are organized completely differently from mammalian brains, and yet, there it is. So why does any of this exist? What's the evolutionary point? Here's the most compelling theory. Animals that live in stable social groups with real long-term bonds do better. They cooperate more. They protect each other. They share information. Those bonds are adaptive. They're built in. But here's the catch. When a bonded individual dies, the systems maintaining that bond don't just switch off. The expectation of their presence lingers. The behaviors directed toward them persist for a while, and the emotional state tied to that bond keeps going. What we're seeing, the carrying, the bone touching, the altered behavior, might be the natural result of a deeply adaptive bonding system running into a situation it was never designed to handle. Which raises the biggest question of all. Do any of these animals understand that they themselves will die someday? That requires something even more cognitively demanding: self-awareness, future thinking, projecting yourself into a moment that hasn't happened yet. And that is a whole other rabbit hole.